Welcome, guys, for another episode. Today, I'm with Susan. And if you don't know who she is, she has a lot of experience in Enneagram. And if you have hopefully watched the previous episode, then you would have probably understood how the structure of Enneagram works. So, today, we're going to dive in a bit deeper. We're going to understand a center of intelligence, which is the gut type.
So great to be with you again. And yeah, just to review, the Enneagram is broken down into 9 Enneagram types, 3 centers of intelligence. And we're going to talk about one of the 3 centers of intelligence today, which is the gut or body type, it's often called. And that's located down here in kind of the second half, lower half of your torso. And what this is based on is that we've actually got intelligence centers in the gut, body, in the heart, and in the head and mind. And these centers of intelligence have processing tissue that actually receives data from the outside world, processes it and interprets it, and then expresses something back out. So they're processing centers. Head, heart, and gut are processing centers. I have heard, I haven't done this research myself, that actually there is brain tissue in the intestinal area, and our entire immune system is in the gut. Now, talk about intelligence. Like, that is where the whole center of defense and protection happens to land, which is down in the intestinal tract, which is in the gut. So, why is the gut center of intelligence so important to the Enneagram? And what Enneagram types actually drive first, dominantly from the gut center? So, we've got 9 Enneagram types. 3 of them are going to drive from the gut center, 3 of them are going to drive from the heart center, and 3 are going to drive from the head center. So, today we're going to talk about types 8, 9, and 1 that actually drive dominantly from the gut center of intelligence first. The gut center of intelligence is governed by the aversive mammalian emotion of anger. And what does this mean? And if you study the Enneagram, you'll hear that the heart center is governed by distress and grief and panic, and that the head center is governed by anxiety, fear, and terror. What does that mean? It actually means that as a gut center intelligence person, I am sensitively focused on violation. I am sensitively focused on boundaries. I'm sensitively focused on territory, on dignity, my autonomy. I'm in the space, I'm here, I exist, therefore I matter. It's a wisdom of my own gravitas. It's a wisdom of my own place and right to exist in the world. It's kind of like a groundedness. There's a gravitas in my presence. I'm here and I matter. I have a right to be here. I have a right to exist. Don't stand too close. Where are you standing? Who's out of order here? Who's taking control of others? What's not right here? What needs to be adjusted? What needs to be controlled? What's in the way of my autonomy? Who's violating my self-respect and my dignity? This is all of what anger is actually sensitive to and will rise up and express if our boundaries are violated, if my sense of self is violated, if my dignity is being encroached upon, if someone's in my space, taking my things and in my way. This is a gut center of intelligence. What happens in the gut center of intelligence, though, is that we can really be in denial of our own physical presence. We can be not in denial a lot of times of our own physical needs, because our attention is on boundaries, violation, justice, fairness, what's wrong in the system, what do I need to correct, what do I need to get under control. And it can be quite a relentless energy. The energy of the gut types can feel kind of like bulldogs sometimes, tyrants, control freaks, stubborn. You can kind of feel different ways that anger is being used to direct my being and to control reality. 8's, 9's, and 1's are constantly arguing with the way things are, with reality as it truly is. It's got to be different. It's got to be changed. It's got to be reformed. It's got to be I got to get this under control. I got to lead the way. My autonomy, my sense of what's right in the world, setting rules for myself and other, setting parameters for others that I want them to operate in, and also setting parameters within myself from which I will operate. Now, 8's, 9's, and 1's are working with all of this very differently. If anybody knows an 8 and anybody knows a 9, you know they feel really different. You're thinking, how could both of them be operating from this basic premise? Well, 8's will express anger very openly, very directly, unashamedly. 9's will repress anger, pull themselves back in behind a wall of autonomy, and they'll exist back here in a form of stubbornness and resistance. And 1's are actually kind of ambivalent. Sometimes we'll express the anger very constructively in a measured way, and sometimes we will suppress it or censor it because it's not the appropriate thing to do in this moment. So the 1's are going back and forth, working with anger as a form of outward control, measured, scolding, correcting, going into kind of a rigidity, or actually suppressing and censoring the self and not responding in the moment. But oftentimes you'll see that the whole body of a type 1 has gotten really tight and really rigid, and you'll kind of see a lot of contraction around here, and you'll see the kind of lip compression where we're actually holding something back. So, Prim, do you have any questions about the gut center of intelligence? What
Yeah.
strikes you or ignites your curiosity?
Yeah. First, I just want to confirm. I think when you in the beginning you said that there are three different types of intelligence, right? And I just want to ask you, are they like operating like the same way, or are they operating like in completely different mechanics, rules? You know what I mean? Is it like a completely different world with its own rules, or?
That's a really great question. Each human being has all three centers of intelligence. So all of us have head-centered intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
heart-centered intelligence, and gut-centered intelligence. And how I've learned this through listening to different researchers is each one of these centers of intelligence has its own way and tissue
Yeah,
for
sure.
processing. So it's receiving data from the outside world and it's processing this data. So the flow of energy in and out and the flow of information in and out is hitting that center. And that center tends to have a particular sensitivity to what's going
Yeah.
on in the environment and a
Mm,
particular sensitivity to its big survival emotions, in this case, anger. So someone who's centered in the gut is going to be pretty sensitive to boundary violations. It's going to be sensitive to autonomy. It's going to be sensitive to my dignity. And in that sense of dignity, it's also regulating belonging. My birthright to belong. I'm here and therefore I matter. And being treated with dignity and respect is something that the gut types are sensitive to. But we express that observation and that experience three different ways. But when I go into the heart center of intelligence, the heart has its own central nervous system. It actually has its own processing center, and it's extremely sensitive not to
mm,
my autonomy and my dignity, my boundaries, and my sense of worthiness and belonging. It is sensitive to, am I liked? Am I valued by others? Do others want me? Do others desire me? Am I approved of? Am I fitting in here? Do people want me to be around? Am I attractive to people?
it's like a
Do
sense of
people want
belonging
to
and
hear me?
approval, right?
Yeah, it's really about approval. And it's like, I have something to say. Do people hear me? Do people see me? Do people value me? So the heart center of intelligence is geared at the survival of, if I'm not accepted by others, I won't survive. So this is the knowing that if I get thrown from the tribe, I'll get eaten by a lion. I've got to connect with others. Connection is everything. It's the validating force of my life. If I'm connecting, others see me, feel me, exchange with me, I'm going to survive. And so the heart is really sensitive to that particular kind of intelligence, that aspect of our survival. 3 centers of intelligence that have some kind of wisdom around how we have to survive, what we need to do. And all 3 are working together, right, to make sure that we survive. Survival's
Yeah.
why do temperaments even exist? Why do we have different personalities? Well, we're all contributing to surviving on this ball that's spinning in black space in a place we don't know.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary, right? And we're some
Yeah.
kind of a biological organism down here trying to figure it out. So these centers of intelligence are processing, how can I best survive? And the heart knows, I can't do
Yeah.
it alone. I got
Mm.
to be connected with others. The 3 body types or gut types, they're less sensitive to, I'm only going to survive with others. There's more as my autonomy, my dignity, my space, my feet on the ground, my power, my control. It's a little bit geared that way. You can see how that important that is
Yeah.
to our survival. So now we go to the head center of intelligence. Well, what's the gift here? The head can anticipate. Fear is the driving emotional system, mammalian emotional system that is aversive, meaning it's survival responsive, is fear, anxiety, fear, terror. What fear does, it's got a gift. It allows us to anticipate. It allows us to sense danger. It allows us to sense danger
Yeah.
coming. It allows us to get ahead of ourselves going, if that, if he does that, if he falls down there, this is going to fall. It's like all this anticipatory talent that starts setting us up to be certain and secure in a world that is existentially actually pretty dangerous. And
Mhm.
so this is what the head center of intelligence is offering the system, how to predict, how to prevent, how to get ahead of it. And so you
Yeah.
can see, and that creates a lot of anxiety. It creates a lot of rumination. It creates a lot of thinking about it, rethinking about it, reanalyzing it, reprocessing it, going over it, kind of prevention specialist. So that's the head center of intelligence, because if I don't predict what could happen here, I could get off guard and I won't survive. I'm going to get caught off guard and I won't make
Mm.
it. That's what the head center of intelligence is, rationalizing and reasoning and processing and analyzing,
Mm.
studying, right?
Yeah.
The research mechanism,
Yeah.
anticipatory talent of the creature that is contributing to our survival. And,
Yeah.
they say, humans are probably the only mammal that can scare itself to death with its own mind. Like, we're
Yeah.
suspecting that, and through the research that I've looked at, that we don't think animals have as much imagination
Mm.
to imagine that they're gonna get eaten by a bear tomorrow, but they have all this heightened sensory awareness, hypervigilance that is always on the alert for the particular predator that is
Yeah.
after. So the 3 centers are actually, they've got their antenna on different things that are contributing to our
Yeah.
survival. They are
So,
innate, they
mhm.
operate like a gift, they operate effortlessly. As I'm a
Yeah.
gut type, I don't have to effort seeing things in my environment that need fixing, that need getting under control, that
Mm.
need that something that's chaotic needs to be brought to structure. That is natural for me, and I don't have to think about it. But when I go into my heart center of intelligence or my head center of intelligence, I can develop those centers. I've got to focus on them more. They're not as innate and automatic
Mm.
and impulsive for me as what's going on in my gut center.
Yeah.
So I'm a
So,
type 1, by the way, for anybody that
yeah.
doesn't.
It's funny because I'm a type 7, which is the head type, and I have that thing with the head. And I think, and I'm trying to like tune into the heart center and the gut center a little bit more. And for me, and you might verify, or you know, this, I feel with my head center, I have more memory, you know. I can recall stuff what the head kind of like, is looking at. And thus I have like a very good worldview that is based on head. But for me, the heart center and the gut center feels very feminine, feels very flowy. it comes in the moment, and if I don't make a conscious effort to like, oh, I have to memorize this and remember it, just like I forget, you know what I mean? Does that
Mhm.
happen to you too? Is that what creates that different types? You know, they're just focusing and have memory on different aspects of reality almost.
Ooh, so there's 2 things that you've shared here that I'm gonna separate them into 2 different explanations.
Sure.
First of all, you're talking so beautifully about the experience of being a type 7. So for the type 7, the energy flows up from the body and it kinda comes up into the head. So there's your chi, your life force
Yeah.
kinda goes up here, okay? Figuring things out, planning, anticipating options, possibilities, like you're seeing stuff, and it's fast, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes 7s will say, "Oh, do I have a body? Oh,
Oh, damn.
oh, there's stuff going on down there, I've got
Yeah.
feelings and I've got apprehension," and like, "What is
Uh,
that?" So the 7 actually, it's kinda a little bit in denial of what's going on down here and also in here. So 7s regulate themselves by not going in, by going out into the future, going out into an option, possibilities, like stimulating things. This is how 7s regulate their discomfort,
mm-hmm.
regulate their anxiety, actually, regulate feelings of not enoughness, which these are common themes, right? For all humans. I'm
Mm.
not enough, I'm not worthy. Like
Yes.
this is how 7s regulate any of that coming onto the screen. So you don't have to experience it. Now, the second thing that you shared is really interesting. This is just my theory,
Sure.
but the way we lay down the way we lay down memory is
Yeah.
really interesting. And it's usually when we're present to
Mm-hmm.
something, we'll lay down a memory. When we're dissociated and not present, we won't lay down a memory.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
memory is a recording.
Yeah.
In order to take a recording, we got to turn the camera on. And in
Mm-hmm.
order to turn the camera on, we have to be present. So our own
True.
presence hits the on button to record.
Yeah.
When we're not present, when we're lost in a defense mechanism, when we are dissociated out of ourselves, when we
Yeah.
are reactivity, most of the time we can't remember very well what's going on. And here's
Yeah.
another little clue to this. You're in an argument with someone. I do a lot of coaching.
Yeah.
An argument, the moment you dissociate, actually you don't have any memory. And so I'll just give an example of a couple. So we're in an argument and your partner says something that is so triggering to you and you start reacting. And every time I coach someone, I say, okay, what exactly was said that triggered you? And
Mm.
I'll be darned every time, you know, I actually can't remember the words that they said. I can't remember what they said. And because all of a sudden the explosive, triggering, reactive cortisol, adrenaline in the defense system to protect you comes up and we're kind
Mm.
of gone. So memory is a recording that lands in explicit memory once we're
Yeah.
around 3 years old. The explicit memory system lays down, which is the movie making, the auditory, the images start getting recording, the pictures, the movies, and the sound all start getting recorded. That's explicit memory, about 3 years old and above.
Mm.
Presence turns on the record button.
Okay.
Dissociation, we won't record a memory.
Mm.
So placing your attention on the present moment, you will remember. You'll lay down a memory.
Yeah.
That's how it works. We got to place
No.
our attention there. We have to be
Yeah.
present to what's happening. They say you
Yeah.
only remember 5% of your childhood. Now, isn't that amazing? We're only laying down 5% of the activities. And
Yeah.
even with that, that's an awful lot of tape still
Yeah.
that's getting stored, right? All over the body.
Yeah.
And
That.
it happens
Yeah.
when we're
Yeah, I think the nuance and the complication here is that first of all, knowing that there are different aspects just within yourself to be present to, because the way at least my presence, works is almost like a torchlight. It doesn't like illuminate the entire room; it just illuminates like a part of the room. You know what I mean? At least for me, or maybe for someone else, they can just illuminate the entire room. But for me, it's almost like a torchlight, like looking. So I have to constantly choose, okay, in this moment, which aspect of myself do I have to like place a torchlight on? So that there is a recording, you know what I mean? I think this Enneagram gives me like a almost like a map, you know. Okay, I have to like focus on this is a gut problem. So I need to like think using my gut, you know, and that thought itself is like I think is a very unique thought to have.
I love what you're saying here. You are highlighting the work of Helen Palmer and Marion Gilbert without even knowing it. It's called Our Lens of Perception.
Correct.
And I love your metaphor of I got a flashlight and it's kind of got a narrow,
Yeah.
it only lights up something in the field that is kind of narrow. You're so aware that you're not picking up all of reality, which is
Yeah.
really interesting, Prem. You're already aware that my lens of perception that has been organized by my Enneagram type is only picking up what's in my flashlight's view. So
Yeah.
that's exactly how it works. So our lens of perception is limited. And now the word limited sounds not good, but if you think about it, how do we filter reality? If we're filtering all of reality all at the same time, all in one moment, we're going to get pretty overwhelmed, first of all.
Yeah. True.
Second of all, when we have a more focused lens of perception, when we narrow reality and pay attention to certain things, it actually allows us to hone the gift. Okay, I'm going to focus on this, and my focus is good on this. I've got an aptitude to see this particular thing in reality. So I'll bring that to humanity. You focus on something else, okay? And the other
Yeah.
person got another flashlight, and they see something different in the
Yeah.
same room, right? That's the gift of the collective. So when you take all 9 Enneagram types and every one of them has a flashlight and is pointing outward, we all get to see something different and we all bring that back to one another and then we
Mm.
survive. So the narrowed lens of perception is not an accident. It's very real. It's the way we're designed. It's the way we're neurologically and biologically and spiritually wired. It's a
Mm-hmm.
gift.
Yeah.
Expanding our lens of perception, going out and buying a floodlight
Yeah.
to give us a greater view of reality. That's what this work is about, because that allows us to enter expansion. It's not just an idea. To expand your lens of perception, to
Yeah.
expand what you see in your lit up focus of attention, requires us to develop new neural pathways, acts gained capacity to actually light more of it and receive more of it. Receive more of it without it creating fear or frustration or distress, but also to receive more of it and have the capacity to take that into our system and stay regulated, not get dysregulated, not get overwhelmed. And that
Mm.
takes capacity building, which is what learning the Enneagram cognitively, learning the Enneagram and experiencing yourself emotionally, learning the Enneagram in the gut center of intelligence, where we start to broaden what we
Mm-hmm.
will allow to impact us. That's in the
Mm-hmm.
gut. And then working with our somatic experience of reality, what our bodies will allow us to experience before it hits overwhelm. What is overwhelm? So much anxiety, I got to get out of here. So much frustration, I shut down. So much distress that I start, texting someone 100 times to get a response. That's how we get overwhelmed and dysregulated, and it starts to get very uncomfortable. And we're all trying to avoid overwhelm. Our whole defense system is designed to prevent us from going into emotional experiences of overwhelm, which is
Mm-hmm.
very undesirable. And at the very end of overwhelm really is fainting. And what happens to something when it faints? It's completely open to a predator.
Yeah.
It's a horrible state to be in. You're completely vulnerable. You've passed out. You got no control over yourself.
Yeah.
So we know that's so dangerous, right? Innately. So preventing overwhelm, totally shutting down to the point where I either completely dissociate out of myself or I faint is what we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to prevent. It's like it's like a system of electrical wires, right? We can short circuit.
Sure.
And when we
It
fry
kind
our
of
wires,
literally though. Yeah.
we're not very good, right? When our wires get fried, you're in a state of panic and distress, or you're in a state of terror, or you're so much rage, you see red, and next thing you know, you've broken windows and you've thrown things and you don't know what's happened, and those states of existence, of being, cause terrible damage in our lives, lead us to being in prison as we've done something that we can't take back, that ends up being criminal. We push somebody through a window because the rage got so enormous, we dissociated, and then the body takes over, either faints or goes violent, passes out, dissociates, right? Puts all of
Yeah.
those systems of overwhelm, puts us in some kind of existential or psychological danger.
Yeah. See, I want to ask now, so how do you deal with overwhelm? But before that, I want to really understand. So if I'm let's say a gut type, right, which is the 8, 9, or 1, and I'm pointing the flashlight at a certain aspect of reality, right? So what is the gut type seeing? That's what I want to know.
So that's a great question. And I'm going to take you now. Now we've kind of got a general understanding of what
Yeah.
gut types are looking at. Let me take you through 8, 9, and 1. So the flashlight of the 8, it shines attention and it focuses attention on who's in control here, who's got the power. What are they doing with that power? Are they abusing it? Or are they using it well? Who needs to be put in their place? Who needs to hear something? Who needs to learn a lesson? Who's picking on the weak person in this room? Who do I need to shake up a little bit? Who's not being truthful? Who's fake here? Who's dishonest? What's unfair here? Where's the truth in this moment? That's 8. And they bring this big energy, and they can get angry very quickly, and they can get very, very intense very fast. And they can go on the attack very readily. Hey, you, cut it out. Like they'll yell it across a room. They have no compunction, because when 8s focus their attention that way, their truth is the only truth. And they will suppress risk to themselves, fear, and any kind of vulnerability they have to get this under control.
It's almost like a protector.
Very much. Their name is the challenger, the protector, the boss, the leader. Yeah. 8s are very, very big energy, and they keep everybody in line. So you can see how that Enneagram temperament is so needed in our societies, in our tribes, right? They really kind of protect everyone. And when they're securely attached, high level of developmental well-being, that focus of attention is used for the greater good of all. When they have low level of developmental well-being, they've been injured and traumatized in childhood, that focus of attention can be used to wield power that they lost as children. They can become abusive. They can become very over-controlling and over-demanding and over-intense when it's not appropriate. And we have the type, the Enneagram type, in its center of intelligence, high functioning, low functioning, highly traumatized, which would be low functioning, and securely attached, well-loved, and potentiated from childhood. So all the 9 types always have to consider the type itself, the way it's organized, and then how healthy it is or unhealthy, how developmentally secure it is, or how developmentally traumatized it was.
Yeah. So you're almost saying so the torchlight is seeing this aspect, right? And then how they're reacting to that information, or how consciously are they choosing to use that information to act in a certain way, is the difference between the high conscious and
Absolutely.
the low conscious. I'm just impulsively reacting. Oh, you like that. I feel it lacks grace, right?
The lower level of developmental well-being, developmental are developmental experience from birth all the way up. And actually utero is very impactful too, but the developmental level of well-being, the lower we are on that measurement, the more mechanistic we are, the more impulsive and compulsive we are, that we're just reacting to internal trauma, internal pain, trying to avoid the pain, trying to get out of the pain, trying to use whatever we have to regulate this. Sadly, I'm going to be a little blunt here, but I'm a parent. We are, as parents, responsible for this aspect of a human being put together well. Good enough parenting. Thank God for good enough parents that put their children into the world without too much internal distress so that they can function and have a satisfying life. And that is the work of each and every one of us raising children. We got to think about it a little bit. So you put a child into this world that is severely traumatized, neglected, and abused, and they turn 18 and you expect them to be champions. Well, wait a second.
Yeah.
Might not experience that. You might experience a child that's an addict, who's lost, who doesn't have access to its higher qualities, that's trying to kill itself, that's depressed, this all starts way back when, in most cases. So I'm very passionate about trying to put humans together from birth on up, that are not going to suffer so much unnecessary suffering because their level of developmental well-being has been so severely damaged and arrested. So high level of developmental well-being is where we get to potentiate into our essential qualities, where my focus of attention is used for the higher good of all, that it's not compulsive, it's contributory, that I can offer it when it's appropriate. I know how to offer it in appropriate ways. I know how to use my gifts and talents to serve others. 8's are very, very typically very protective. I use my gifts of protection to really serve others rather than to squash others so I feel protective. It's a little bit different. So type 9, yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So type 9 is in the middle of the gut body center of intelligence. Their driving emotional system, aversive mammalian system, is anger. But by gosh, try to find a 9 that's angry, because 8's express the anger, 9's repress. I use that word very carefully. Repress means it goes offline and I don't even know it was there. It's not even in my consciousness. I diffused it. I got rid of it. I'm not conscious of it. I'm never angry. I'm easygoing. I get along with everybody. Well, how does someone get along with everybody? Because at some point, the gut center of intelligence is going to want to say, your boundary just got violated. Someone just pushed you around, treated you like you're invisible. Somebody's not even listening to what you say. The gut is going to start popping up and saying, hey, say no. You don't want to do that. So the 9's are in denial of differentiating themselves from others. And my hypothesis around 9 is that they have such a profound sensitivity to the damage to connection that anger can bring, that they actually diffuse it. So 8's, 9's, and 1's are working with anger in 3 different ways, and 9's know it's destructive. The 9's have a central nervous system that can diffuse it and stay connected at all costs. I'm not going to misuse this volcano of vital, life-sustaining energy. I'm going to just diffuse it because I want to stay connected. I want this person to know that I'm with them. I don't want to differentiate. I don't want to have a different opinion.
Yeah.
I don't want to say, hey, you've hurt my feelings, because that could disrupt our ability to merge with one another and align with one another. So I'm just going to stay really behind the screen, diffuse everything, just go along with everything. And I'm not going to activate my anger. I'm not going to say no and differentiate. So the anger goes down into the body and diffuses it. And they come up and they're back behind this wall of autonomy. So they kind of have a wall between you and the real world. And so they'll agree and align and non-differentiate, but behind that wall, that's when they're free, behind the wall of autonomy. And this is where 9's will say, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll do that. And then whoop, they go behind the wall of autonomy. You don't hear from them again.
Yeah.
They will
Like,
tell you
bye.
they disagree. They find this way of kind of sort of disappearing themselves, like they just kind of make
Passive.
themselves invisible. Yeah, and this is how they get their free will, because the gut center is my dignity, my autonomy. Well, 9's are getting their autonomy too. You just don't know it. And they come back behind the
Mm,
wall and they won't say no, but you'll start getting this resistance. You can get this passive aggressive invisibility, like they start disappearing on you. They start procrastinating. Hey, I asked you to take out the garbage 3 days ago. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I'm not taking it out. They go do something else. So they get their freedom another way, but they
mm,
are repressing the anger in order to present a self that's very agreeable, because that is the priority in the system, and
yeah.
to absolutely not self-distinguish from another, to not differentiate.
Yeah,
That's
sounds like them being angry would almost cost them if they ever like burst out, then they are losing that friendship or that relationship.
it's cataclysmic to them, and they do. Eventually,
Yeah.
when you start pushing on a 9, you go, "Oh my god, there's someone in here." You know? They really do like chicken instead of meat, and they would never tell me that, right? And I
Yeah.
like, so you push on a 9 long enough, and they will eventually explode. And sometimes, and I've been working with my dear friend Marion Gilbert, what happens is you'll be in a relationship with a 9. "No, no, honey, that's fine. It's just totally fine. Everything's fine. That's no worries." But all of a sudden, 10 years later, they file for divorce.
10
Clump.
years?
10 years of repressing their identity, going along, not speaking about how their feelings have been hurt, not
Yeah.
speaking to how they have felt invisible or uncared about, and all of a sudden, they up one morning, file for divorce, and there's no discussing it. It's like cut. So, and that anger activates finally, and it shocks the crap out of anybody dealing with a 9, because they're like, "Where'd that come from?" Well, it's been building for a long period of time. So they are kind of like the slow building volcano. So
Mm.
anybody who has a 9 in your life, the key to it is build.
Beware.
Yeah, beware, but you gotta, like 8's, you always know where they're at. You always know where an 8 stands. 9's, you can really get surprised. So you're gonna give them permission to speak to
Yeah.
you. And you want to be a little bit tenacious when they say, "No, no, no, it's fine." So, "Hey, I want to hear from you." And when they get pushed a little bit in a loving way, and they really feel safe to come out from behind that wall and expose themselves a little bit, that's a really beautiful way to connect with a 9. Got to give them permission to differentiate and know that the connection is totally safe.
It's funny. There is like, I met a guy in university, he's like 24, just my age, but he got married and he was telling me he got divorced, right? And he just moved here to Windsor, and he was having like a nice life or whatever, but he suddenly got like this 15-page letter from his wife, and they're like separated, like, yeah, okay, here's
Because
15 pages of why I feel this way, bye. And he's
yeah,
like shook.
yeah.
He's still shook, but yeah,
And
that's
it comes
crazy.
out. So when those who repress or suppress their anger in particular, they start to build resentment. Sometimes, especially if it's repressed anger, they don't even know why they're resentful, but they start just getting resistant to someone. They just kind of start pulling back. But oftentimes it's like building a case, like a legal case, and here's my 15 pages of why I'm divorcing you, and I haven't said anything in 20 years. Yeah, and here it is, the whole case. And there's no arguing because it's so convicted, and and all the conclusions are already all done and all buttoned up, and there's no room. And
Yeah.
this is where the gut types are very interesting for me. Gut types leave no room for others. So there's a wall between the gut types and reality. So I'll impact you, but you're not going to touch me. And the 3 gut types kind of live behind a wall, an invincible, impenetrable wall of invulnerability,
Mm,
all 3.
yeah.
So that's the gut types. And that's, that wall kind of feels like this gravitas. I mean, you can feel kind of there's this, people will call it strength, but it's also impenetrability. Can't affect you, can't
Mm,
move you. Try to move an 8, 9, or a 1 off of their conviction. We can be very non-receptive. we can be completely oblivious to how we're impacting another person. We're not picking up these cues. We're like, oh, I hurt your feelings? Clueless. But 2's, 3's,
Oh
and
no.
4's, they know right away when they've hurt somebody's feelings. But the gut types are,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
blended. I have been in oblivion a lot. I have no clue how I'm impacting people.
Oh
And
yeah.
I've had to
It's funny.
tune into it. I've also had to learn to care about it, which
Oof.
doesn't that
It's all
sound
like,
weird? It's like, oh, I hurt their feelings. Well,
not really have to know whether I hurt your feelings or not, but also have to care about it. Oh my God. Crazy.
to care because we're
Yeah.
back behind this wall that is of autonomy, and we feel we have every right to be there. And I've affected you. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is my conviction. This is my way of seeing it, my way of doing it. This is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
8's, 9's, and 1's are very convicted. It's just 9's don't tell you.
What does convicted mean?
Conviction is certainty.
Oh, certainty.
It's like
A sense
is
of
the way.
righteousness almost.
It's a little bit like that, I mean, low level of developmental well-being, all 9 types can get very righteous. They absolutely cannot be something, but 8's, 9's, and 1's, they just kind of have this conviction around certainty. Like when they speak or when we decide something, it's got this certainty to it. There's not a lot of self-doubt. As a matter of fact, a little bit of doubt for 8's, 9's, and 1's could be a little bit healthy, kind of going, hey, what do you think of that? I'm not sure about that. You don't see that in the gut types too much. You don't see this uncertainty or self-questioning. And sometimes self-questioning is a really good place to be, right? Getting feedback could be a really good thing too, which the gut types don't often get any feedback because we're behind this wall. I'll impact you. You're not going to impact me. I'm back here with my convictions and my autonomy and my certainty that
That's
how
so
I
interesting.
is right. Yeah.
I think,
So
yeah, because I'm trying to like compare and contrast with my personality. I'm like a 7. I don't know. I think I'm very perceptive to like very like minute changes, when someone, and I quickly try like course correct it in the moment. Like the other day, I was having a lecture, and my teacher, right? She was like, "You guys have any doubts?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And she was like, "Oh, this guy's gonna come after me." That gave me that vibe. I'm like, "Look," I was like, "Look, I'm like in your team. I agree with everything you're saying. I just have a small doubt which is irrelevant to what you said." She's like, "Oh, okay." Ask
yeah,
away. You know what I mean? Yeah.
absolutely. And that 7's have a very inquisitive nature, a very curious nature, and 7's can see many things at one time. So, 7's are great questioners. Comes from a divine curiosity. But what if
Yeah.
this? And what if that? And there's like lots of options out here. And how do you organize all that? But you bring that as a gift.
Yeah,
I
that's
always
true.
lean into the gift first. The gift is there first. And then how it gets used to defend ourselves and how the gift gets used to ensure that I'm worthy of love. We're always doing those two things.
Yeah, it feels like I don't know whether you play games or not. Video games have different classes. You have the mage, you have like the axe guy, you have the dual wielder. You know what I mean? And there are like there are like very skilled dual wielders, and there are not so skilled dual wielders. You know what I mean? But they have like the weapon with their own strengths, weakness, and stuff like that.
They have their own weapon, absolutely, and they have their own beauty.
Yeah, exactly.
Love how you just done that. Yeah, that's exactly how the Enneagram works. We have our own kind of weapon. The defense system is formed, and
Yeah.
the beauty is formed from the same essential self.
Yeah. I think because you're aware of a very certain aspect of reality, that naturally just opens you up to a very certain type of weakness. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If I'm just focusing on thinking, I'm obviously going to be oblivion on feeling. Like, you know what I mean?
That's right. It can be to the over dominance of the thinking, to the underdevelopment of the feeling and emotional system, and the underdevelopment of the gut intelligence. That's exactly right. So and this is Gurdjieffian now, but the
Okay.
first 3 levels of development in his 7 levels of man, he calls it. But the first 3, so Gurdjieff has 7 levels of man. David and I just organized developmental well-being in low, average, or high, just to keep it really simple. So Gurdjieff has 7, and of course the
The
levels
man up there, just in a
yeah,
cave somewhere, I'm just joking.
levels of development by Riso Hudson, they had 9 levels, and then you've got Ginger Lapid-Bogda in the Enneagram in Business. She's got 3 levels of self-mastery. So actually, David and I's way of organizing it and Ginger's 3 levels of self-mastery are very similar. But Gurdjieff had 7 levels of man. The first 3 he called mechanistic. And it was gut center of intelligence, heart center of intelligence, head center of intelligence. So as long as we've got one dominant and the other 2 are underdeveloped, we're mechanistic. So you've got to develop all 3 centers of intelligence, get all of them online, get all cylinders working.
Yeah.
Then you get to the 4th level of man, which is called balanced man. And this is that first level of being conscious, kind of awakening to the self. It's the first level of, oh, there's more to me than just these mechanistic compulsions and impulses. So that's where he differentiates that really working with more than just your one dominant center starts you on the path of development. We actually have 3 centers. What's going on in my heart? What's going on in my head?
Yeah.
And how are they all interacting? And which is the area that I could work toward further development and expansion and allowance. Really, the word is allowance, allowing it into the field to play with your dominant center of intelligence. So for me, gut instinct, I was telling you, I'm oblivious that I've even hurt someone's feelings. Well, what if I open up my heart and I start registering that? I start caring about that incoming data. I start looking for it. Because until I wake up out of my gut center, I'm not looking for it.
Yeah. So wait, I want to ask what 1 is, but before that, I'm curious. So what is the max man? You know what I mean? So 4,
Well,
what's
the
5, 6, and 7?
7 levels of man. So we got the first 3, which is geared at your
Yeah.
3 centers of intelligence, your mechanistic. Then you hit the 4th. The 4th
Yeah.
is like you just climbed out of the hole onto the platform.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
Yeah.
you're
Damn.
sitting on the platform. You're like, oh, awareness. I'm a
Sure.
sentient being, and I'm more than compulsions. And I'm not just my head center, but I have a heart, I have a gut. So they're all now interacting. There's a flow, energetic
Yeah.
flow, all 3 centers. And then you go the 5th layer and the 6th layer, and the 7th is total omniscience, pure love. And how many humans have achieved that on this planet? It's
Handful, probably.
rare. It's rare.
Yeah.
It's rare. So the 5th, 6th, and 7th are all different layers of enlightenment and a complete embodiment of your defense system, and a dismantling of the defense system is part of levels 5, 6, and 7.
Dismantling. So when does a defense system dismantle?
So it's
What?
when you're non-reactive. You are non-unconsciously reactive. Instead, you are completely able to track the somatic experience of reactivity in your body the moment it starts to arise. And it comes from the gut center. My anger, my distress, panic, and hysteria, the loss of connection, my anxiety, fear, terror. You immediately know they've been triggered, and you're immediately able to self-regulate, not through repression, not through suppression, not through denial or numbing out or deflection or displacement, but you become consciously able to re-regulate through self-soothing, through reorganizing your chemistry like that. That's a very, very high level of self-mastery. So the fear starts to rise. I'm in danger. I'm able to be with that fear, not suppress it. I'm in fear right now. And you're able to stay conscious, collected, measured, thoughtful, kind, and gentle, despite cortisol having hit your system, adrenaline having hit your system. So these are the extensions. Once you get to the 4th level of balance of the 3 centers, then you start working on your self-regulation, your defense, system, who I have to be and who I can't be, which is called the trap and the avoidance in Enneagram speak. Who
Yeah.
I must be is a trap of my type 1. I have to be organized. I have to be appropriate. I have to be type 7. It's got to be stimulating. It's got to be,
Yeah.
alive. It's got to, that relaxes. And who I can't be lazy.
Yeah.
Or type 7, I can't be stupid.
Sure. Sure.
Right? I can't be that. I can't be weak. I
Yeah.
can't give in. I have to be,
Yeah.
dynamic. And so we start the trap and the avoidance, which the defense system is protecting. The defense mechanisms are the glue of who I have to be and who I can't be.
Yeah.
Someone says, Prem, you're stupid. The reactivity is going to hit like that. I can't be
Yeah.
stupid. No one can say that to me.
Yeah.
So levels of self-mastery, as someone goes, Prem, you're stupid. You go, tell me more about that. And you're regulated. And you
Mm.
know that allowing that someone to say that doesn't alter who you are. They might
It
as well have
seems,
said,
yeah.
Prem, you've got purple hair. Well, I don't have purple hair. That wouldn't get you
Yeah.
reactive, would it? If I said, Prem, you've got purple hair. And you're like,
So,
I don't
no,
want that.
but what? Okay, now what if I want to understand about one, but before that, what if I do have purple hair, right? But I'm in denial of it. So when someone says I have purple hair, I'm not reactive, not because you know, I I I have purple hair, but I'm not reactive because I'm in denial of the fact that I have purple hair. I think I have black hair, but in fact I have purple hair. You know what I mean? That could also be the possibility. I'm seeing all the possibility. So
So
what
when we're
about
in,
that then?
yeah, no, that's a great question. Let's see if I can formulate this. Reactivity comes when we absolutely cannot accept reality as it just happened.
Mm,
So if, let's say someone says to me, let's see, what would a good example be here? It has to violate my sense of who I am in order for the reactivity to happen. Interestingly enough, we might be in denial of a certain quality
yeah,
that we have, but because our self-image is that we cannot have that quality,
yeah,
we'll get triggered. We
yeah,
will get triggered. So, but if it's a quality about myself that I totally own,
yeah,
if it's a quality about myself I truly know I don't have, I won't get
yeah,
triggered. So it's like, you don't have purple hair. Somebody's saying, wow, Prem, you've
yeah,
got purple hair. You're like, I don't have purple hair. And it doesn't create a reaction. But if I
yeah,
say to you, Prem, you're really stupid. You know you're not stupid, but
yeah,
just hearing someone thinks that of you is going to, oh my God, that person cannot think that about me. It's like someone saying to me, Suzanne, you're really lazy. Ugh. To tell a type 1 they're lazy is like, oh my God, I'm so not lazy. And I do it every day, right? So unless I have, if I've integrated that, you know what, sometimes I am lazy. And someone says, Suzanne, you're so lazy. And I'll go, sometimes I have been lazy. No dysregulation
Like,
because I've
having your
already,
existence flash before your eyes. I'm lazy, like, oh, like start seeing God and stuff. you know.
so
It's
the more I own about myself and the more I release from who I have to be and who I can't be, the more liberated I am.
true,
Because
true.
in truth, sometimes I am lazy. Sometimes I am disorganized. Sometimes I am
Mm,
chaotic. The truth is, even though my type 1 structure says that if I am those things, I'm not lovable, but the real truth is accepting the fact that I am a foibled human and sometimes I'm all of it. Sometimes I'm not smart.
yeah,
Sometimes you didn't see a good possibility. Sometimes as a 7, you didn't escape being
yeah,
trapped,
yeah,
you know? Sometimes the 8 was really vulnerable and really felt weak,
yeah, true.
you know? So it's that acceptance that
Yeah.
actually
Sounds like
Resolve
it
it.
reminds me of like that prayer in the Alcoholic Anonymous, give me the courage to like change what I can change and accept what I can't.
That's right. And
Yeah.
accept that sometimes what I absolutely think I cannot be, sometimes I am that. Sometimes. See, the pivotal word here is sometimes. And if I was that way once, it doesn't mean I am that. It just means I was that in that moment.
Yeah.
And it's like a boomerang. I come right back to who I really am
Mm,
most of the time. We always return to the essential self. Always, because that is what's real within us. My essential being tends toward organizing, tends toward creating structure out of chaos. I tend toward that as a gift.
yeah.
It's innately wired in me. That gift is always there, even in moments when I couldn't organize something. I was too tired. I needed to take a break. I was lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't lazy. Maybe I was just exhausted,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's the way we perceive ourselves and allow the radical inclusion of all of it that really changes the grip of the type structure and puts us back more into our essential qualities of being, to use David's beautiful words.
Interesting.
Mhm.
So if you're pointing the flashlight as a one, so you can actually talk from experience this time. So what are
Yeah.
you actually perceiving? So what
So
is like the raw information and then what is your interpretation on the information?
so the raw information I scan for is it's wrong. That's wrong. No, that's
Yeah.
not right. That's wrong. So I'll take you back to being a very small child living in Montreal where the winters were full of snow and people would come in and take their snow boots off. And my parents would have family over. Everybody would leave their snow boots in this big pile by the door. And my little
Disgusting.
flashlight, that's wrong. I mean,
Oh,
I
that's
wanted them
wrong.
locked up.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
wrong. No, big ugly pile. Look at that. Big ugly pile.
Mm,
Not beautiful. That's not right. That's disorganized. I go put them all in a line and I wanted all the same ones next to each other. So, and then when that was like that, I'm like, and my flashlight goes again. Oh, I see these crumbs on the floor. That's wrong. And then
yeah.
I flip, and then I'm scanning again and I see, oh, that person that I was talking to yesterday, they used the wrong vocabulary word. So it's always, I get hit with reality. Like, it's like bracing myself. That's wrong. That's not right. That's wrong. I got to fix
Yeah.
that, prove that. I have to set that right. It could be a painting that's crooked. It could be an argument with a partner and they remembered what happened incorrectly. So I've
Yeah.
got to fix their memory, right? I've got to clean everything up. Everything needs
Yeah.
to be straightened up, whether it's physical things, whether it's emotional things, whether it's interactions, whether it's things that we promised we were going to do. It's holding people accountable, holding people responsible, being dutiful, doing the right thing at the right moment, according to some kind of moral compass that I agree with and
Yeah.
set my own moral compass. So that's where the light is shining all the time. So you can imagine how busy type ones are because everything's fixable,
Yeah.
improvable, needing work, needing strengthening, needing fixing, needing a better way, needing to be corrected, needing to be done more of
Mm-hmm.
whatever is called for. So we have no serenity. There's
Mm.
zero
No
serenity
peace.
in the focus of attention. There's no peace
Yeah.
because there's always something that could be better. So I could get the house all organized and all clean. I finally sit down to watch my movie. This is a true story. I sit down, I look over and and there's termites that start dropping a pile over there. I'm like, oh. So I got to get up and I got to clean up the termite mess. And I sit down again. There's some lint over there. Get up. I got to get the lint. I can't not correct. And I think this is really common in type ones, and don't ask me what this is about, but the floors, anything on a floor that shouldn't be on a floor, I can't sit with it. Drives me nuts. If something drops on the floor when I'm talking, or I could be in the most emotionally heated discussion with someone, and if something drops on the floor, I have to pick it up. You can't
That's
leave it
fine.
there. It's wrong. And I'm totally agitated until it gets back in its proper place. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the
Yeah.
life one. And that impulse to
Mm.
fix it is driven by anger.
Yeah.
Anger mobilizes me when it's
Interesting.
wrong. It hits the body like I've just been hit by a rock. That's what it feels like. And then it compels me to set it right, fix it, straighten it out, get it organized, something before I have peace again. And then whoop, I get hit by another rock. So it's like that all day long until I learn
Mm.
to be comfortable with the feeling of being hit by that rock. I have to learn to relax the frustration and the agitation, to
Yeah.
let things be just as they are, and then
Yeah.
to not be so dysregulated. For me, I get tight. For once, you get so tight inside you can't breathe. It's almost
Yeah.
like I fix it and then I can breathe. And then I just
I've heard
straighten
that.
it out, I can breathe. I have that conversation I need to have to fix the disharmony, and then I can breathe. So it's almost like
Mm.
holding my breath, breathing again, holding my breath, breathing again.
So I'm trying to understand, right? Because uh let's say the boots example, right? It's like a mess. So it is true that you can fix it, and it is true that it will look pretty, right? So why would you choose to be comfortable with the feeling of frustration when you can actually go and fix it? Because you know what I mean? I mean, I think it's easier to accept stuff that you actually cannot change. You know what I mean? I think you have no choice but to accept. Like, what's motivating you to choose to be okay with the feeling of, oh, that doesn't look that right, and I'm okay with it, when you can actually do something about it? You know,
Beautiful question. And where I can fix it or improve it, I'm so easily mobilized to do that.
mm,
But what happens when I go and teach a class in prison
mm,
and I learn about the sentencing process and how unfair it is?
mm,
Or I look down and I see what my students are eating, the most non-nutritious plastic food, horrible. And I can't change that.
yeah,
Now what do?
yeah,
Now I'm a rigid mess and I leave the prison system like this. So I have to know how to relax what I can't change, what I can't fix, what I can't improve. And I have to consciously learn how to place my gift where I can make a difference and not suffer where I can't. That's a beautiful question you asked me. But
yeah,
if I'm not a conscious one, I can't relax it. And I angry and I go home and I start biting at my child, or I start biting at my husband. I start nitpicking people and I start getting frustrated because I haven't been aware that I have encountered something so big
mm,
that I can't change. And then I get really anal retentive at home and I drive everybody nuts because I'm displacing that energy now onto my displeasure with others.
mm,
And a lot of
okay,
times, this is what you see is ones that become so critical, so rigid. And a lot of it is from things they couldn't fix, they couldn't handle, and they couldn't structure somewhere in their past. And so they're living a rigid life without consciousness.
yeah,
So we have to know how to regulate that pain. There are things we cannot change that are so wrong in this world, so terrible. And the other instance is I walk into somebody's house and I see a painting is crooked.
uh,
It's not really good
yeah,
to go change it. It's not
yeah.
really good to go fix their painting. That's very intrusive, right? So I want to have an enjoyable lunch with
Start
my
cleaning their house. You know what I mean?
right. And I'm sitting there. Let's say she sits me where I'm facing the crooked painting the whole conversation. So I relax my frustration so I can
Wow.
be with my friend, right? So again, if I'm not conscious, I'm going to sit there that whole lunch like with this low irritation because,
What's funny is during that conversation, she would be thinking, "Oh my god, I'm actually not interesting, so this person is frustrated at me." But you're actually just frustrated at the crooked painting.
well, here's the truth. People think it's them.
Yeah.
People
Oh,
don't know, right? So
yeah.
all of a sudden my whole energy is kind of tight and I'm, and I'm frustrated. And again, this is an unaware one, right? I'm totally aware that I'm triggered by that, but I can't do something about it because it's not appropriate to go up and straighten somebody's painting in their house or turn off the fluorescent lights. I mean, for me, fluorescent lights drive me nuts. And if I go into a place where there's fluorescent lights, I don't want to be there. Like I won't even eat in a restaurant that has fluorescent lights. So let's say I'm stuck in a restaurant that has fluorescent lights and it's an important meeting with someone, I've got to be present. So I've got to regulate my agitation for these horrible lights that are buzzing and ruining everybody's complexion. And I mean, I can go on about how offensive they are. They're wrong. So I have to learn to regulate myself, because if I don't, all that anger gets caught here in my jaw, and I'm tight and I'm distracted and I'm preoccupied. And that interrupts my ability to be present with what's important.
So you feel that behavior is similar with all the cut types, or is just one?
All 9 types get
All 9 types?
all 9 types not get preoccupied with a crooked painting, but they get preoccupied with what's in their line of their flashlight.
So the reaction to that would be similar, is what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. But it'd be a different focus of attention, right? So
Different trigger.
yeah, but when we can't get what's in our flashlight manifested or corrected or under control, or I don't feel safe, or I feel trapped, or whatever your focus of attention is, we become not present. 9 different ways.
Yeah.
So we've got to be sensitive to our focus of attention, our lens of perception, and what happens when we don't get our way, when we don't like it, when we don't like what's in our focus of attention, and the impulse is to do something. Can we relax that when it's appropriate to relax it? Can we act on it when it's appropriate to act on it? This is all conscious now.
Yeah.
What consciousness starts to look at. I got my gift. I got my flashlight. I got my gifted focus of attention. How am I going to use it? Am I going to use it to frustrate myself to death every single day and other people? Or am I going to use it as the gift it was designed to be? And I'm going to learn how to regulate my discomfort.
Yeah.
And learn how to regulate my compulsion. Act on it. Even if it hurts somebody, even if it hurts me, even if I'm supposed to be in a conversation with someone, but I'm actually so preoccupied with this over here, I'm not even present. That's the unconscious human.
Yeah. I'm understanding now the gifted perspective more, and why seeing through that lens is actually helpful. I think it like oh damn, I'm using something I could use for good for something not that good.
That's
And
right.
I think that naturally just motivates a person to like, why am I using it this way? You know what I mean? When I could be doing good, why am I doing evil with the same weapon?
And that's the development of a neutral inner observer that starts to watch. What am I doing? Am I present right now? What am I compulsively thinking about? What's this frustration in my solar plexus? What's that? How's that impacting everyone around me?
Yeah.
So that neutral inner observer can bring up curiosity.
Yeah.
And observation. And then we have a more conscious choice of how I'm going to bring my type 1 to the world, and how I'm not going to use it to make other people suffer. How am I going to bring my beautiful type 8 lens of perception and qualities to the world? And how am I not going to use it to make me suffer or other people suffer? That's conscious.
Yeah.
It's conscious. All 9 types, when they're unconscious, we can kind of hurt people. We can become a pain in the neck,
Yeah, definitely.
And we can break our relationships just by being in our type. We can actually wreck something that's beautiful.
Yeah, that is true. It's funny as well. Even if you are conscious, even then you still can wreck the relationship, because you're not completely conscious of the mechanism. It's still a running process. Just I think the sad part is you sometimes learn after the conflict has happened.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know this now, but it's like, I wish I knew like 10 seconds earlier. You know what I mean?
Well, that's
Yeah.
not bad. 10 seconds later is really good, you know?
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
people,
yeah.
it's 5 years later. They go,
Oh no.
"Oh, now I see myself." But, we can't I just wanna to highlight
Yeah,
something. There's no getting rid of your type structure. There's no getting rid of what you see in your focus of your flashlight. There's no getting rid of ourselves. We don't wanna get rid of ourselves, but we
yeah,
want to
yeah,
consciously include our awareness and an
yeah,
understanding of actually how I'm wired, and
yeah,
how it's getting deployed, how it's getting used. But I'll never get rid of my type 1 gifts. It's just
yeah.
been there with me since I was small. The world felt better to me when things were correct and improved and organized and not chaotic. And that's always going to be the gift I have. And I'll bring it to my
Yeah.
work, to my relationships, but I brought it to my work and I have brought it to my relationships in a way that was detrimental because I
Oh,
was unaware that I was overusing it. And with it, I was leaving people feeling completely excluded, leaving people feeling completely inadequate in my presence. That's I wasn't trying to do that. I was just unaware. I was just overdoing the gift to the point where I was causing others to just say, "You know what? I give up."
mm,
That's pretty sad. That's
yeah.
that's what type ones have to learn, Not everybody benefits from learning how they're supposed to improve. Let me tell you
Exactly.
how to improve that. Oh, that's good, but oh, that's okay, but look here, look here, look here. And people are like, oh my God, you know, because we offer constantly.
Yeah,
It could
yeah,
be better if, could have done it
yeah,
better if, and people get tired of having to always
yeah. Yeah,
have to
sometimes I
do
explicitly
more.
tell people, I'm gonna like tell you something, but do not give me advice. Just say, uh-huh, mm-hmm, and then it's move on. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Uninvited input,
Yeah, yeah,
and 8's and 1's are real good at that. Giving uninvited input of how you could do it better, how it could be improved, you know? And we have to learn that that's not always well received. We have to learn how to deliver that gift too. How can I give someone an idea of how they can make it better without harming them,
yeah.
scolding
True.
them, being invasive, um, stepping out of my own lane in a place I wasn't invited? We have to learn that. Not everybody wants to improve in that moment. That's
True.
shocking for type 1. Like, really? Because we're gonna bring our gifts as a form of bringing love too. So, what am I gonna offer someone? I'm gonna offer them everything that functions well within me, and each of the 9 types is gonna bring their gift as a form of a love language, whether the
Yeah,
other wants it or not. And so we have to learn how to offer it in a way that comes from love and that it can be received, not
true.
in a way that comes from our compulsion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like to, I think if I try to like think of a motivation to get rid of myself, the question remains: okay, once you get rid of yourself, who will you become? You know what I mean? And is that image of the person who you're trying to become, is it designed to like get more control, get more approval, get more safety and security, and all that's like an ego perspective. It's all
Mhm.
very like myopic in nature, I feel, because because if you're just living in for approval or control, it's like now we have a personality that is not getting the approval or control. You know what I mean? Because when the people sense that, oh, this guy's trying to control me, or this guy wants my approval, immediately the universe is like, nope, bye. you know
Yeah, I'm not going there. If
yeah.
I had to sum it up, it's what is this work all about? And I'd have to say it's the liberation from compulsion that's unconscious,
I like that.
and it's the freedom to respond in the moment with exactly what's needed, what's authentic, and regulating our upheaval inside so that we can respond with presence, so that we
I
can
like that.
stay present.
Yeah,
Too much upheaval here, we dissociate. We're gone into the defense system. We're reactive. We're gone. We're just
True,
gone.
true, true.
And so to be able to regulate ourselves enough to stay present, to
Damn, yeah,
stay in the light of who we are and really be with what's happening,
yeah,
and not just compulsively dump our type 1, type 8, type 9 into the field when we need to be a little bit more than that.
mm,
And that's received very differently by another human. Wow. When we're standing in the light of another human being and they're
yeah,
present, it's like, "Oh my god, you're really in there. There's somebody in there that's not just a compulsive pattern, and I'm gonna get the same response again. No matter what I say, I'm gonna get the same defense again." And this is what destroys couples because the defense system isn't present. It gets really boring. We can't be there. When you see a different response suddenly coming from your type 1 partner, it's like, "Oh my god, you're in there. There's someone that just received me." Didn't compulsively launch their same sentence, their same complaint, you know?
yeah,
Then it gets really beautiful. We can be response flexible.
true, true, true.
That's more
I like
exciting.
that. I like that. I think
It's
for me,
non-revisit.
yeah, I think for me, I'm trying to find a very systematic way to master that aspect of life. I think that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand and stuff like that. Yeah, it's very interesting as well because once you are in that place, I feel, where you're not just reacting to like stuff, then the choices, everything, it's automatically goes in the right direction, I feel. You know,
Absolutely.
that automatically everything like starts working together. And the image that comes in my head, I feel, is like everyone is like a unique puzzle piece, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they're kind of like more not their shape because of how reactive they are. I think reaction kind of like morph the puzzle piece shape because oh, this is not who you are, this is who you are because you're reacting to it this way, you see. But then I think once you like overcome that, everyone is like a unique puzzle piece and then they just fit together so perfectly. It's so funny. I was talking to a person and I love this kind of conversation, right? Understanding myself and stuff like that. And I was speaking to him. He's like, man, I love buildings. I love looking at them, and I love the way they are designed, and I see a lot of beauty in it. And in my head, that was super surprising, because I don't think in my lifetime I could see as much beauty in a building as he could see. You know what I mean? And what's funny is I don't think he can see as much beauty as I am seeing in this work as well. You know what I
Right.
mean?
That's right.
So I
Yeah,
think everyone is like uniquely designed to like see beauty, love, and different aspects of reality.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely, and those differences make us humanity, and that's what makes
yeah,
humanity so interesting, and it's so funny when people get in relationship. "Why do you see that way? Why do you look at buildings that way? They're so boring." Like, it's amazing how we attack the differences rather than what
yeah,
you did. You actually were revering his seeing beauty in the buildings. You actually took that in a very loving
yeah,
way. Now that's how relationships work. That sustains connection with each other when you acknowledge, wow, he sees it that much beauty. I don't see that. I see the beauty in these conversations, but look, we're both valid.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. I think work like this gives you that sort of empathy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not an experientially I know what you're going through, but I can at least conceptually empathize your struggles through my struggles. But I
that's
think
right.
I have to be aware of my struggles first and also be aware of your struggles as well.
We have to
Both
be
need to be
aware and
conscious.
allow. We have to allow the
Yeah,
other,
allow. Yeah,
right?
true,
We
true.
have to allow the other and not be fearful that it's different from us.
Yeah,
Differentiation can cause humans a lot of fear. That's
true.
why even, when you go to prison, you reduce humans in a environment that is so dangerous, they actually organize by race, familiarity.
Yeah,
All the white people organize, all the black people organize, all the Mexican, they organize by race because that non-differentiation provides some kind of sense of safety. So when we encounter someone who's different from us and we're not aware, it can create fear. And then we
Interesting.
respond to the fear. You're different. You can't be different. You have to be like me. That's what we do until we become conscious, like you said. And then through consciousness and the allowance of the difference and recognizing it is actually a benefit, we can accept and allow their difference. And then we can actually have reverence, which you so beautifully demonstrated.
That's interesting. So let's say I'm a viewer, right? And I think I might be a 8, 9, or a 1. So how would I know?
Do you express your anger, repress your anger, or it goes both ways depending? So the first way is look at how you're dealing with your anger. 9s will say, I'm never angry. I don't have any anger. I don't even know. Am I really a gut tape? I don't have any anger. A lot of times I feel like that. So express, repress, or goes both ways. It's ambivalent. So you look at it that way. And then you look at the focus of attention. You look at what upsets you. What in reality are you trying to control or prevent? And the answers are there between 8, 9, and 1. 8, 9s, and 1s look real different. They look real different. They behave differently in reality, but they all share that gut center of intelligence. And again, going back to what you're saying about becoming more and more conscious, those 7 levels of man, right? When you get to 5, 6, 7 levels, what's happening is instead of when you are under threat as a gut type, when I'm under threat and I'm unconscious, my gut and my anger is going to fly forward. My heart's going to go back and my mind's going to get foggy. But when you have all 3 centers of intelligence online and I'm under threat, my gut is strong, my heart stays there, and my mind stays clear. So how much easier it's going to be to regulate myself because I've got all of these still present, still allowing energy to flow in and out. They're all 3 processing. So, but the gut types, anger is the driving aversive, meaning it doesn't feel good, mammalian emotion for survival. And so issues of autonomy, dignity, territory, control, changing reality, not accepting it the way it is, trying to make it something different. That's the gut types. Justice, fairness. You're wrong, you're right. You're nice, you're not. It's like that. It's like these judgmental, very judgmental splitting happens in the gut types. A lot of conviction and certainty around my view. You're right, you're wrong. See, I didn't know I was judgmental as a 1 when I started in this system. I thought I was factual. So that's a big difference. I didn't realize I was judging things. I just thought, yep, that's truth and that's truth. You're right, you're wrong. That's truthful, yep. So it took me a long time to realize that this black and white thinking was actually judgmentalness. I had no idea because I just thought I was seeing things truthfully. So you can see how my lack of awareness about what judgmentalness really is and how the mechanism works led me to feel that I was just seeing factual truth. I was seeing my conviction, my black and white splitting, my way of organizing information. That's what I was seeing, but I didn't know that at the time. That took me a while. Like a long
Interesting. Because if I think I'm factual, why would I change? You know what I mean? The facts needs to start contradicting somewhere.
Yeah, and 1s talk about conviction in 1, move over to type 8. I mean, they're like so certain their truth is the truth for everybody that they're really in denial. So 8s are really, really hard to open them up to other possibilities and say, you know, your truth is this, but this is also true. For 8s, it's like, what are you talking about? So it takes a lot of work for them to relax that invulnerability, to see things a different way or from another's point of view. They're probably the most difficult to pivot in the whole Enneagram. And maybe 9s are the second hardest to pivot. And then 1s, Ones, I can be more responsive actually,
Yeah.
depending on
Yeah, definitely.
the logic. But so how is that for gut type for
Damn, it's amazing. Yeah, it's a
his
lot to process actually. I think you went over like a lot of things. I think let's end off this episodes by maybe can you like give some examples of each type, like people can go and like watch to like see the differences maybe.
Oh,
You know?
let me think about that. So I've seen a lot of the Enneagram community typing from the outside, like movie stars and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it's accurate and some of it, in my opinion, is not accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And we all see, look at, if I shine my flashlight on one movie star, what am I going to see? Right.
Yeah.
We're all shining our own lens of perception on things. 8's, 9's, and 1's. Do I have a good example? Okay, I can kind of think of, I'll use actual characters in movies.
Yeah.
The Harry Potter film,
Mm-hmm.
there is the woman with the white and the blue girls' school. That teacher is a classic stereotypical type 1, very tight-lipped, little hat. Everything is all manicured and
Proper.
tight.
Mm.
Type 9 in film would be a type 9 in a movie.
Someone nice but secretly crazy. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Oh, okay, type 9. Sylvester Stallone played a policeman,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to gain like 30 or 40 pounds to play this role. He played a classic type 9 in that film. I don't remember the name of it.
That's one.
He was the quiet, goes along with everybody, type 9 policeman in this precinct, and everyone was pushing him around, and everybody thought he was kind of slow, and because he didn't really speak up. He ends up the hero on the end of the movie because he finally finds his voice and he finds enough anger in him to pursue justice and and he went to right action as a 9. Beautiful film. That's a great example of a type
Yeah,
9.
maybe someone in the comments can figure it out, Yeah.
And type 8 in movies, type 8.
Mm,
King Henry VIII, I suspect, was a type 8 in history. I'm pretty
interesting.
sure he was a type 8, and he had an injury that never healed because they were so short of vitamin C. They didn't understand nutrition back then, and all he ate was
Yeah.
meat. So he had no vitamin C in his
Barbarians.
body, so he had this huge laceration on his leg that, like, it was there until the day he died. It was like full of pus and never closed up because you have to have vitamin C, right, to heal.
Yeah.
And the pain of that made him nuts. He ended up getting more and more aggressive, more violent, and more rageful. But I do think he was an 8. And I think most Enneagram community would actually agree on that one, that he's pretty much classified as an 8 by everybody. So
That's
there's
interesting. But I think the most important way to type is becoming aware of the patterns within yourself, I guess. Because I think
absolutely, yeah.
that is the only thing that you can absolutely be certain of. Oh, I'm looking at it this way.
Yes, it
So,
is an inside job. It is a self-assessment tool.
mm,
But it is recognizable in the lens of perception we have, what triggers us, what upsets us, and in the self-image we carry will be right on our Enneagram type. So in an Enneagram interview that I do, understanding the image of self the person carries will tell me what type they are. Because it's who they have to
interesting.
be. It's who they have to be. And then you ask questions around who you absolutely cannot be, and it comes out right there. So the structure is repeatable all across nature, all across humans.
So would you say it's easier to? I'm sorry, go on.
Good writing in movies properly captures different human temperaments, different Enneagram
True.
types. Certain movies, when they don't understand personality and they can't write the character properly, it stands out like a sore thumb.
I'll give you a classic example for that. Pinocchio. So Disney remade Pinocchio, right? And people hated that movie. And the reason for that is the old Pinocchio, the animated one. Pinocchio actually was like this kid who was enjoying doing bad stuff, you know. And throughout the movie, his character develops where he he even likes the fairy, right? The famous scene to like get out of trouble. But he thinks that's the right thing to do, right? But throughout the movie, there's a character shift, and then he like learns to see the value in doing nice things and stuff like that. But in the new Pinocchio movie, I think they're like so playing it safe or something. The character has no conflict or anything. Even when they're put in the same scene where Pinocchio was, there's something called Pleasure Island, right? Where
Mhm.
Pinocchio goes. So even the Pleasure Island arc, the new Pinocchio movie, he was like, he looked super uncomfortable. He was like, they handed him a beer and he was like, and even in the movie, he just takes a sip. But in the old movie, he like drinks, parties, smokes, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, interesting. So that character is not written right, right?
Yeah,
So you can't follow it. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. No, good writing for character development leans into actual human temperament. And if you lean into the Enneagram, you've got temperament because that's what it is. Comes
true,
based
true.
down to
Understand
nine
the conflict. Yeah,
nine different temperamental proclivities is what the Enneagram is pointing at.
cool. That. So, would you say that if I became more conscious of myself, would it be easier to type others, or it doesn't matter really what your consciousness is?
Absolutely. You start by learning your own type really well. So your own who I have to be, who I can't be, what your defense mechanisms tend to be, how you get
Yeah,
out of pain and suffering. And you understand those mechanisms, and then you're going to start seeing that on others as well. Yeah, it's kind of a natural progression. And then you study all nine types. Who a nine has to be, who he can't be, what's his defense mechanism, right? If you start studying those three things on each of the nine types, you'll really start
hmm,
to see it in reality, in real life.
cool. Sounds, yeah. I think that concludes this episode. I'm like processing, saying this. I'm like, oh, I like, I like processing. All right. I think the next episode will be exploring the heart type,
The
right?
heart center. Okay.
The heart center. Yeah. Cool. Looking forward for that. Thanks a lot for this call. I really appreciate it. Really insightful. Damn. I ask questions and more nuggets just keep coming. It's fucking crazy. All right.
Right. Awesome to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Yep. See you guys.